The breaking point. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Federation floated in the void between stars, a monument to unity that had stood for 12,000 years. Its crystalline walls refracted the light of distant suns, creating patterns that danced across the faces of representatives from 200 worlds. Today, those faces were turned toward the human section with expressions ranging from amusement to contempt. Ambassador Michael Chen stood in the speaker's circle, a lone figure in the simple dark blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. He was a man of average height with graying temples and calm brown eyes that had witnessed too many insults to count. Around him, the chamber rose in ascending tiers, each level representing a different rank in the Federation's rigid hierarchy. Humans occupied the lowest tier, just above the observer seats reserved for pre-spaceflight civilizations. Chancellor Vex of the Zentari Empire lounged in his seat on the highest tier, his crimson scales catching the light as he gestured dismissively. The Zentari had been spacefaring for 18,000 years, and they never let anyone forget it. His voice boomed through the chamber's acoustic field, reaching every corner without need for amplification. "The matter is settled," Vex declared, his triple-jointed fingers drumming against his armrest. The asteroid colonies designated as Mercy, Providence, and New Hope now fall under Federation jurisdiction. Their mineral resources will be redistributed according to the greater good. Michael's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. Those colonies house 70,000 human citizens. Families who have lived there for 3 generations. You cannot simply reassign them like cargo. Laughter rippled through the upper tiers. Trade Minister Calyx of the Mercantile Union, a being whose crystalline body refracted light into rainbow patterns, made a sound like wind chimes tinkling. "Ambassador Chen, your species has been part of this federation for 250 years. Surely you understand by now that individual concerns must yield to collective necessity." "Collective necessity," Michael repeated slowly. "Is that what you call it when the Federation decides to strip away our territory without consultation? Without even informing us before the vote?" Elder Sentinel Orin shifted in his seat near the middle tiers. He was ancient even by galactic standards, his form barely humanoid, more energy than matter. His people, the Lumini, had been founding members of the Federation. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of millennia. "The human representative raises a valid point regarding procedure." Chancellor Vex waved a dismissive claw. "Procedure is for equals, Elder. The humans are guests in this galaxy. They should be grateful we allow them any worlds at all." The words hung in the air like poison. Michael felt something inside him crack, a dam that had been straining for centuries finally giving way. He thought of all the times humans had bent, had compromised, had swallowed their pride for the sake of galactic harmony. He thought of the human doctors who had died fighting the Scarlet Plague that decimated the Draxian worlds. He thought of the human engineers who had rebuilt the quantum relay network after the Great Cascade, working for decades without recognition. He thought of the human soldiers who had stood on the front lines during the Shadow Incursion, bleeding for worlds that weren't their own. "Guests," Michael said softly. Then louder, "Guests." The chamber quieted. Something in his tone had changed. "For 2.5 centuries, humanity has contributed to this federation," Michael continued, his voice growing stronger. "When the Scarlet Plague threatened to wipe out the Draxian people, it was human medical researchers who found the cure. Dr. Sarah Martinez worked for 19 years without rest, and she died in her laboratory at age 47. Did the Federation honor her sacrifice? Did anyone even learn her name?" He turned slowly, making eye contact with representatives across the tiers. "When your quantum communication network collapsed, it was human engineers who rebuilt it. The Federation said it was impossible, that the technology was too advanced for us to comprehend. Commander James O'Brien and his team spent 30 years of their lives restoring what you had lost. They asked for nothing in return except respect." Trade Minister Calyx's crystalline form flickered with irritation. "Your point, Ambassador?" "My point," Michael said, his voice dropping to a dangerous calm, "is that humanity has given everything to this Federation. Our knowledge, our labor, our blood, our lives. And in return, you treat us like children. Like servants. Like property to be managed and territories to be reassigned at your convenience." Chancellor Vex leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "You forget your place, human." "No," Michael said quietly. "I remember it perfectly. And I'm done with it." He reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small data crystal, its surface glowing with a soft blue light. The gesture was simple, but something about it made the entire chamber tense. Elder Sentinel Orin sat up straighter, his energy form pulsing with sudden concern. "What is that?" Vex demanded. Michael held the crystal up so everyone could see it. "This is Protocol Exodus. A contingency plan that Earth's government approved 200 years ago, shortly after we joined the Federation. Every human leader since then has hoped they would never need to activate it. He pressed his thumb against the crystal's surface. It flashed once, twice, 3 times. What have you done? Calyx's voice rose in pitch, the chiming quality becoming discordant. Michael's expression was serene, almost peaceful. Effective immediately, the United Earth Coalition withdraws from the Galactic Federation. All treaties are void. All agreements are terminated. All human citizens in Federation space have 30 standard days to return home. After that period, Earth will consider itself a separate, independent entity with no obligations to this body. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted in dozens of languages, their translation devices struggling to keep up. Security drones activated, their blue lights pulsing as they moved toward the speaker's circle. Chancellor Vex was on his feet, his scales flushing darker with rage. You cannot do this. Vex roared. You are nothing without the Federation. You will starve. You will collapse. You will come crawling back within a year, begging for forgiveness. Michael looked up at him with those calm brown eyes. Perhaps. Or perhaps you will discover that you needed us far more than we needed you. He removed the small pin bearing Earth's flag from his uniform and placed it carefully on the speaker's podium. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the suddenly silent chamber, each one marking the end of an era. Security drones moved to intercept him, but Elder Sentinel Orin raised one hand. Let him go. Elder, you cannot, Vex began. Let him go, Orin repeated, his voice carrying an authority that even the Chancellor could not ignore. He has followed every protocol. He has broken no law. He is simply leaving. Michael reached the massive doors of the assembly hall. They slid open automatically, recognizing his credentials one last time. He paused in the doorway and looked back at the chamber, at the 200 species who had shared this space for millennia. I want you all to remember this moment, he said, his voice carrying clearly despite the distance. Remember that humanity asked for nothing but equality. We did not demand tribute. We did not seek dominance. We simply wanted to be treated as partners rather than subjects. He paused, letting the words sink in. You refused. You mocked us. You took from us without asking. And now you will learn what it means to lose what you never valued. The doors closed behind him, and Michael Chen walked away from the Galactic Federation forever. In the chamber, silence reigned for a long moment. Then Trade Minister Calyx spoke, his voice uncertain for the first time in centuries. The humans, they maintain 70% of our medical infrastructure. They operate the quantum communication network. They are replaceable, Vex interrupted, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. We managed before they arrived. We will manage after they leave. Elder Sentinel Orin said nothing. He simply stared at the closed doors, his ancient mind calculating probabilities and consequences. He had seen civilizations rise and fall across thousands of years. He had watched empires that seemed eternal crumble to dust. And right now, watching the human ambassador walk away with quiet dignity, he felt something he had not experienced in a very long time. Fear. Across the galaxy, the message spread at the speed of light, carried by the very network humans had built. On Earth, President Elena Rodriguez stood in the Oval Office, watching the live feed of Michael's departure. When the doors closed behind him, she closed her eyes briefly, then opened them with renewed determination. Issue the recall order, she said quietly. Bring our people home. On 200 worlds, in thousands of stations, aboard countless ships, humans received the same message. Some had been expecting it for years. Others were shocked. But all of them understood what it meant. They were going home. And the galaxy they left behind would never be the same. In the Grand Assembly Hall, Chancellor Vex called for order, his voice sharp with authority he no longer felt certain of. Representatives argued and debated, trying to understand what had just happened. But in the back of every mind, a question was forming. What happened when you took something for granted for so long that you forgot it had a choice? They were about to find out. The consequences unfold. The first 3 days after humanity's withdrawal, the Galactic Federation treated it as a minor inconvenience. Chancellor Vex gave speeches assuring member species that the humans would return once they realized their mistake. The Federation media outlets ran stories mocking Earth's foolishness, predicting economic collapse and social chaos within weeks. Trade Minister Calyx publicly announced that replacement contractors had already been identified for all human-operated services. By the 4th day, the confidence began to crack. It started small. A medical station orbiting the Draxian homeworld experienced a system failure in its pharmaceutical synthesizer. The automated repair protocols failed. The backup systems failed. When Draxian technicians opened the machine, they found themselves staring at technology they could not comprehend. The synthesizer had been designed by human engineers 40 years ago and maintained by human specialists ever since. The instruction manuals were written in technical terminology that lost crucial meaning in translation. Within 6 hours, the station's medicine supply began to dwindle. Within 12 hours, patients started dying. Similar failures cascaded across Federation space like falling dominoes. Life support systems malfunctioned. Water purification plants stopped working. Agricultural stations lost climate control. Every system revealed the same problem. Humans had not just operated the technology, they had fundamentally understood it in ways others did not. Trade Minister Calix stood in his office on the Mercantile Union Central Hub, staring at data streams that made his crystalline body dim with stress. His assistant, a younger member of his species named Torix, projected holographic charts into the air between them. "The numbers are catastrophic," Torix said, his chiming voice subdued. 73% of our medical supplies came from human pharmaceutical facilities. 81% of our food processing technology was maintained by human engineers. Our entire quantum communication network. "I know," Calix interrupted, his internal light flickering erratically. "I have seen the reports. Trade Minister, our people are already experiencing shortages. If this continues for another month." "I said I know." Calix's voice rose to a painful shriek of discordant tones. He forced himself to calm down, his crystalline form gradually returning to its normal rainbow shimmer. "Contact the Federation Council. We need an emergency session." But the council was already in chaos. Chancellor Vex found himself facing something he had never experienced in his 3 centuries of leadership: rebellion from within. Species after species demanded answers, demanded solutions, demanded that he fix what he had broken. "You told us the humans were insignificant." Ambassador Threll of the Aquarian Collective slammed his webbed fist against his console. "You said they were replaceable. My people are dying because our water treatment facilities have failed, and no one can repair them." "We are working on solutions," Vex began. "Working on solutions?" Delegate Marin of the Cordian Republic stood, her 4 arms gesturing wildly. "It has been 1 week. 1 week, and our infrastructure is collapsing. How long did we depend on the humans? 250 years? And you thought we could replace them in days?" Elder Sentinel Orin watched the chaos unfold from his seat, his energy form pulsing with a sad, steady rhythm. He had tried to warn them. He had seen this pattern before in other civilizations, other eras. Pride came before the fall, always. While the Federation descended into chaos, something else was happening in the outer territories. The Zentari Empire, emboldened by what they saw as human weakness, decided to take advantage of the situation. Admiral Kreth commanded the Zentari battle fleet, a formation of 80 warships that represented the military might of one of the galaxy's oldest empires. His orders were simple: occupy the 3 disputed asteroid colonies before Earth could reinforce them. The humans would be scattered, confused, weakened by their withdrawal. It would be an easy victory. The fleet arrived at the Providence colony expecting minimal resistance. What they found instead changed everything. 12 human warships waited in defensive formation around the asteroid. They were smaller than Zentari vessels, sleeker, with designs that seemed almost organic. Admiral Kreth studied them from his command throne, his tactical displays analyzing every detail. 12 ships, he mused. Against 80. This will be over quickly. Commander Silas, his second-in-command, shifted uneasily. "Admiral, these vessel configurations are not in our database. We have no combat data on human military capabilities." "Because they have none worth recording," Kreth replied dismissively. "All species build warships. It means nothing. Prepare to attack." A communication channel opened. A human face appeared on the viewscreen, a woman with sharp features and steel-gray eyes. She wore a black uniform with a silver star on her collar. "I am Captain Diana Reeves of the Earth Defense Force," she said, her voice calm and professional. "You are approaching sovereign human territory. Turn your fleet around and leave. This is your only warning." Kreth laughed, the sound resonating through his bridge. "Captain Reeves, I have 80 warships. You have 12. Do you truly believe you can stop us?" Diana's expression did not change. "Yes." The communication ended. Kreth gave the order to attack. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. The Zentari fleet advanced in their traditional formation, a tactics that had won wars for millennia. The human ships did not move like anything Kreth had ever seen. They scattered in seemingly random directions, then converged with impossible precision. Their weapons fired not energy beams or projectiles, but something else entirely. The first Zentari battleship simply stopped. Its engines died, its weapons powered down, its life support failed. The ship became a tomb in the space of 3 seconds. The second ship suffered the same fate. Then the third, fourth, and fifth. What is happening? Kreth roared. Fire! Fire everything! But the Zentari weapons could not lock onto targets that moved in patterns their computers could not predict. The human ships danced through space like living things, anticipating every move, exploiting every weakness. Their weapons reached through shields as if they did not exist, targeting specific systems with surgical precision. When a Zentari cruiser finally managed to score a direct hit on a human vessel, Kreth felt a moment of savage satisfaction. Then he watched in horror as the damaged ship's hull seemed to flow like liquid, repairing itself in real time. Nanotechnology on a scale the Federation had deemed impossible. By the time Kreth ordered a retreat, 63 of his 80 ships were disabled or destroyed. The remaining 17 fled in disorder, pursued by human fighters that could have destroyed them easily but chose instead to let them go. Admiral Kreth's escape pod was recovered by his own forces 3 hours later. He was alive, but the man who returned was not the same confident commander who had led the attack. His scales had turned pale, and his hands trembled when he tried to file his report. The recording of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. Military analysts from every species studied it obsessively, trying to understand what they had witnessed. The conclusions were unanimous and terrifying. Humanity had been hiding its true capabilities for centuries. While the Federation military struggled with this revelation, Trade Minister Calix made a decision that would change the course of history. He traveled in secret to the Sol system, to Earth itself, without informing the Federation Council. The meeting took place in a simple conference room in Geneva, Switzerland. Calix sat across from President Elena Rodriguez and Admiral Marcus Webb, the commander of Earth's Defense Force. The crystalline being's light was dim, showing his exhaustion and stress. "My people are dying," Calix said without preamble. "Our medical infrastructure is collapsing. Our food production is failing. We have perhaps 2 months before we face complete societal breakdown." President Rodriguez studied him with dark, intelligent eyes. "And you want our help?" "Yes. After your government supported stripping away our colonies? After you called us insignificant?" Calix's form flickered with shame. "I voted against that measure. For what little it is worth. But yes, I understand your anger. I would feel the same." Admiral Webb leaned forward. "Then why should we help you?" "Because," Calix said slowly, "mercy is what separates the civilized from the barbaric. And because I am offering something in return." He projected a holographic document into the air between them. President Rodriguez read it carefully, her expression unreadable. "You are proposing that the Mercantile Union withdraw from the Federation," she said finally. "Yes. We will establish independent trade agreements with Earth. Exclusive partnerships. We will recognize human sovereignty over all disputed territories. We will support any new governmental structure you choose to create." Calix paused. "And we will do everything in our power to convince other species to do the same." "You are asking us to help you destroy the Federation," Admiral Webb observed. "I am asking you to help me save my people," Calix corrected. "If the Federation falls as a consequence, then perhaps it deserved to fall." President Rodriguez looked at Admiral Webb. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Then she turned back to Calix. "We will help you," she said. "But understand this, we are not doing it for political gain. We are doing it because people are suffering, and we have the means to prevent that suffering. That is what humans do." Calix's crystalline body brightened with relief and something else, respect. "Thank you. Do not thank us yet," the president said. "The Federation will see this as a betrayal. They will come for us with everything they have." "Let them come," Admiral Webb said quietly. "We will be ready." 3 days later, Trade Minister Calix stood before the Federation Council and announced the Mercantile Union's withdrawal. The chamber erupted into chaos. Chancellor Vex screamed accusations of treason. Other representatives demanded explanations. But Calix simply transmitted a live feed from the Mercantile Union's capital world, showing human cargo ships arriving with food, medicine, and technical specialists. Showing the relief on the faces of his people. Showing what cooperation looked like when it was based on mutual respect rather than hierarchy. Within 2 weeks, 7 more species announced their withdrawal from the Federation. Within a month, the number had grown to 23. The Grand Assembly Hall, which had stood for 12,000 years as a symbol of unity, now echoed with empty seats and bitter arguments. Elder Sentinel Orin called for a special session. His ancient form floated at the center of the chamber, addressing the remaining representatives with a voice heavy with sorrow. "I have lived for 6,000 years," he said. "I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species achieve greatness and collapse into dust. And I have learned one truth that never changes: respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned. And once lost, it can never be reclaimed through force. He turned to Chancellor Vex. You asked the humans what they could do with 12 ships against 80. They showed you. But the real question was never about military strength. It was about value. About contribution. About partnership versus dominance. The humans needed us. Vex protested, though his voice lacked its former conviction. No, Orin said gently. We needed them. We needed their innovation, their adaptability, their willingness to solve problems others had deemed unsolvable. And we treated them like servants because it made us feel superior. He looked around the half-empty chamber. Now we face the consequences. The Federation is dying not because the humans destroyed it, but because we destroyed ourselves. We built our civilization on a foundation of assumed superiority, and when one species refused to accept their assigned place, the entire structure collapsed. 6 months after Ambassador Michael Chen walked out of the Grand Assembly Hall, a new governmental body formed, the Coalition of Free Worlds. It was headquartered not on a neutral station between stars, but on Earth itself, in a building designed with input from dozens of species. The Coalition's charter was simple: all members were equal. Decisions required consensus. Respect was not negotiable. Any species could leave at any time without penalty. 47 species joined in the first month. By the end of the first year, 83. Many were former Federation members. Others were species who had been deemed too primitive to join the old order but were now welcomed as equals. The Galactic Federation still existed, but it was a shadow of its former self. Chancellor Vex had been removed from power. The remaining 32 member species struggled to maintain their infrastructure and debated whether to seek admission to the Coalition. Michael Chen stood in the Coalition's main assembly hall, watching representatives from across the galaxy take their seats. All at the same level. All equal. President Rodriguez stood beside him. Do you think it will last? She asked quietly. Michael considered the question. I think it has a better chance than the Federation did. It is built on a better foundation. And if it fails? Then we will have tried. That is all we can do. He smiled slightly. Besides, humanity has a talent for perseverance. If this does not work, we will find something that does. Across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, life continued. Humans worked alongside aliens to repair infrastructure, share knowledge, and build a future based on cooperation rather than hierarchy. It was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still misunderstandings, still challenges to overcome. But for the first time in 12,000 years, the galaxy had a chance to be something better than it was. And it started the day humanity walked away, not in anger or revenge, but in quiet dignity. The stars did not care about empires or politics. They simply shone, constant and eternal. And beneath their light, civilization found a new way forward. The Coalition's charter was simple: all members were equal. Decisions required consensus. Respect was not negotiable. Any species could leave at any time without penalty. 47 species joined in the first month. By the end of the first year, 83. Many were former Federation members. Others were species who had been deemed too primitive to join the old order but were now welcomed as equals. The Galactic Federation still existed, but it was a shadow of its former self. Chancellor Vex had been removed from power. The remaining 32 member species struggled to maintain their infrastructure and debated whether to seek admission to the Coalition. Michael Chen stood in the Coalition's main assembly hall, watching representatives from across the galaxy take their seats. All at the same level. All equal. President Rodriguez stood beside him. Do you think it will last? She asked quietly. Michael considered the question. I think it has a better chance than the Federation did. It is built on a better foundation. And if it fails? Then we will have tried. That is all we can do. He smiled slightly. Besides, humanity has a talent for perseverance. If this does not work, we will find something that does. Across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, life continued. Humans worked alongside aliens to repair infrastructure, share knowledge, and build a future based on cooperation rather than hierarchy. It was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still misunderstandings, still challenges to overcome. But for the first time in 12,000 years, the galaxy had a chance to be something better than it was. And it started the day humanity walked away, not in anger or revenge, but in quiet dignity. The stars did not care about empires or politics. They simply shone, constant and eternal. And beneath their light, civilization found a new way forward.